and welcome to the latest from Hearts Standard. My name is Joel Skegg, and I am delighted to be joined on this occasion by Craig Cairns. How's it going, Craig?
I'm doing very well, Joe. How was your holiday?
Excellent. Yeah, it was very good, very enjoyable. If anyone was looking for an American city to visit, I would highly recommend visiting Nashville. And it was a shame because I double checked. Shame that it's not one of the host cities for the World Cup in the United States, because it would have been perfect for visiting fans, especially Scottish fans. I think they'd have a lot of they'd get up to a lot of nonsense, good nonsense there. But it's not, which is a shame. So yeah, if you're ever looking for an exotic stag do and more expensive stag do, go to Nashville. I'd recommend it. How did it go with yourself?
Pretty well. I kept busy. Didn't do as many videos as I would have liked. So glad to have you back in that sense, because it just makes it a lot easier getting people to contribute and that kind of thing. But yeah, very well, and but it's good to have you back, and it's good to have the games back, despite the one that we were brought back to on Sunday.
Yeah, that was unfortunate. I'd had usually we do one on a Monday afterwards, but we both had plenty on, and it was just the day after getting back from holiday. There was no time to do it, and having had time to stew on it, I actually not. I was obviously naturally disappointed afterwards, and well, I didn't think we were brilliant. Looking back on it with a wee bit of hindsight, I just think play that game exactly the way you do again and again and again. I think Hearts win it more often than not because of the chances it created. I thought I thought you could tell the difference between the two sides, even if the fact that Hearts weren't at their best, there still looked a noticeable difference compared to Aberdeen.
That's what I was trying to articulate after the game, but it's difficult ground to tread, because you don't want to sound like sour grapes, and you don't want to sound like but I was trying to make out that the performance was still there to an extent, and when you take other things into consideration, and the fact that a defeat was just going to come at some point, okay, it's disappointing the way it has come about, but I think there's enough. There were enough positives there to continue, and some positive news that we're going to go on to talk about as well, which I think's the main thing, to get key players back.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we didn't really touch on it, and I didn't really appreciate it at the time. It was during that time of the game where you're not really you're not paying as much attention to the game because you're writing, and it was the Kabori. The meet-off challenge on Kabori, I kind of just added to the frustration in hindsight. But I will probably do a video on or do something on or a view on referees, but we'll leave that for today. We'll leave that for today. Like you said, there's a mixture of positive news, and we'll get into just in a second. However, Heart Standard is brought to you by S1 Jobs. If it's time to hand in your transfer request, then head over to s1jobs.com and upload your CV today. With thousands of jobs across Edinburgh and the surrounding area, you'll find the one at S1 Jobs. Start your search today. Now, we are going to discuss some of the stuff that came out of the press conference today with regards to some of the injury situation. Also, for those who are listening or watching live, feel free to put comments, questions into the comment section, and we will answer as many questions as possible. It doesn't have to be about the injury situation. It can be anything related to Hearts, and we'll spend the second half of the show on that. So yes, I was at the Orium today for the pre-match press conference ahead of the Motherwell game on Saturday. I'll be joined by Scott McIntosh on Friday to preview that game. Derek McInnes, there'll be plenty of stuff coming up out on Heart Standard over the next couple of days regarding the game, but the first stuff that went out was regarding the injury situation. I think it's been well documented that Ageu went for a scan. One of three players have had scans recently. Lawrence Shankland went for a scan, and Stuart Finlay went for a scan. And Ageu was we're meant to get more clarity on his hamstring tear this afternoon, but he didn't. The meeting with the specialist in London was meant to be last night. It's been postponed tonight. I got the name. I'm positive. I don't know this for certain.
T-junction.
Yeah, so that's there's. I don't know my hamstrings, but there's something to do with the T junction of his hamstring, and the hope is that it's going to be 4 to 6 weeks. He is, I believe he's meeting with Professor Faris Haddad. Who is a sports surgeon in London who is meant to be the expert with regards to hamstrings. I think a lot of sports people go through him, and he is. He's highly thought of. This talked about Kieran Tierney and Scott McKenna. They are hamstring injuries in the past and how it's such a delicate situation. And I think everything will be a lot more clearer once we find out a bit more about Ageu. But they're hopeful that it's not going to be as bad. The good news is that while it happened on the hamstring he first injured following the Livingston game, his debut, it's a different area. So it's one that we just have to be careful with. And the Hearts have had experience very recently. Callum Newhoff of not identical situation, but a similar situation where he's just not being able to get back from that long-term hamstring injury. So there's certainly belief and hope that it's going to be, when I spoke to Derek McInnes, weeks rather than months.
It's a really frustrating one, isn't it? It's certainly, and it's a little bit worrying as well. If this is kind of it, they get it all tidied up after this, and then he goes on to play after that, then fair enough. But it does start to worry you with the outlay and things like that. This thing can happen to players at any point in their career and their any point in a season. So hopefully it is just one of those things. It is just like a bad series of unfortunate events, and that he can get back to things. But I suppose the bonus with it is that he isn't one of the players that's bedded in and has been doing well and has been taken out, in contrast to someone like Shankland, who you saw how much he was missed at the weekend there. And yeah, you just missing so many key players. You feel much more confident going into the game this weekend than you felt going up to Pittodrie on Sunday with Halkett and Shankland back in the team, as opposed to without them.
Yeah, and I mean, we'll also get onto Shankland shortly, but like with Ageu, and I think you do make a good point, is that there's still not. It's not as if he's become a key cog in the team, and certainly that's been the aim. Like you saw or heard how effusive Derek McInnes was after the Livingston game, speaking about him. He's since spoken about he was kind of desperate for Ageu to be available and for him to use. He was going to be starting against Aberdeen. And so, yeah, if you look on that side, but also on the flip side, I can understand why fans are a wee bit antsy. Antsy is probably the best way to describe it, with just this, just because we've talked about it before. I think fans of all clubs will probably feel like this, but fans of and understandably so, fans of Hearts are always a wee bit wary with injuries, just because we've seen it in the past where players who have went long term, or it was expected to come back and it was just kind of it's dragged on, and there's always just that fear that that's going to happen to Ageu. Hopefully that's not the case. Also, feel sorry for the player as well, because this is a guy who has, and again, speaking to both Derek McInnes and people around the club, is dying to make an impact. He's been really frustrated, and that's normally the case with players. And for example, he spoke about Beni today, and Beni is you take kind of football away from him, and him being on the pitch and his personality of being on the training pitch. He's a really bubbly character, and that can weigh on players. But then you add in the fact that Ageu's coming from Portugal, he is coming to a new culture, learning a new language, and he's also got the pressure of not the pressure, but the fee attached to him. And I think he's aware of that. He's aware of the fact that he's the club's record transfer, and he wants to repay that. He wants to be like a Claudio Braga and Casares, who have hit the ground running and really ingratiated themselves with the fans.
Jambo Dave says here, is Oriam responsible for injuries, as happens when players are training? You were up there today, Joel. Did you notice anything that was a hamstring hazard? How are your hamstrings?
Hamstring's absolutely fine. The Oriam is, I asked about this, and it's Derek kind of made the point that, like, for example, Beni Baningime, he was just playing and he just slipped, and that's what brought it on. It wasn't like a combination of playing on the Oriam. And you have to remember that Hearts have invested a lot of money on the Oriam, especially the grass pitch. That, yes, there was chat from the Scotland camp a couple of years ago about the quality of the pitches, so that might have been the case maybe a few years ago, but it can't be used as an excuse this time around, because the pitch, the quality of the pitch is so much better. It's just like the pitches that the pitches that the team play on. I think that was a big one. They wanted a surface that replicated the surface at Tynecastle. So I don't think that has been the case. And then you look at it, Callum Newnoff, that happened in a game, and then a couple of other injuries have been kind of just like kicks and impact injuries rather than to do with the surface.
And the Shankland one was they wanted to train outside. They were given it every opportunity to train outside. I think they were waiting for the pitch to kind of defrost a bit or something like that. And then in the end, they had to just make a decision. They decided to train indoors. And even then, I think McInnes, he went to talk about the wear then on the Astro, but then he was stopping himself. He was reluctant to say it was anything to do with the surface. He said when they looked back at the clip, it looked like it was just a sort of innocuous slip, and that's how he sort of tweaked his calf. So sometimes they're just one of these things. Sometimes it is just a bit of bad luck. And yeah, I agree with you. I don't think there's going to be anything wrong with Oriam per se. I mean, and again, I'm not pointing the finger at the manager here, but I would be more likely to, if there was an issue, it'd be more likely to do with like things like workload or schedule, or I don't know, things like that, or just bad luck. Like I said,
that's the thing. It's like I think it's just it can just be a combination of things. Because of the stuff like you said, it can be a combination of things, or it can just be like just misfortune. Like, for example, Beni Baningime slipping. But again, it's when these things happen, it does build that, it kind of understandably builds that narrative that there's something must be going on. But so yeah, hopefully the news is good. In terms of the meeting this evening, we'll hopefully have an update on that tomorrow. So that's been a bit of a blow. But on the flip side, Lawrence Shankland should hopefully be back for Motherwell, which is a huge boost considering how much he was missed on Saturday.
Yeah, a huge one. As I said in the analysis and kind of at the top of the in one of the previous answers, if you take that much quality out of the team, they're going to struggle. I think Hearts do have a big squad with a lot of quality, but for whatever reason, there's lots of players there that are largely untested or are slowly being bled in. Now, you can make the argument that McInnes is hoisted by his own petard there because his refusal to bleed more players in up until now, but you could then say, well, Hearts probably wouldn't be in the position they were if he had experimented more, because a lot of this has been, okay, there was a bit of experimentation at the start of the season, but then we've had a really settled core. There was the same lineup. Was it 6 games he ended up playing in a row with the same starting 11, and then went back to it?
Yeah. 5, I think. 5. Yeah. It was 5 or 6.
And then he wasn't far off going back to it in the second half of the next game. And there has been a sort of settled core there. And that has brought consistency of results as well. And he hasn't been as up for sort of experimenting and, as I say, blooding players in that he is probably going to have to eventually do. So I think that's probably part of the reason why Hearts didn't have as much quality on Sunday as well. That there weren't as many players up to speed, and you've lost the quality. So yeah, that's why I think getting Shankland back is such an important thing. It was just such good news to hear that his isn't going to be anything more than just missing that game. It seems like touch wood.
Yeah, so he is just for anyone that hasn't read the piece, which is linked in the description below. He trained. I think essentially done 85% of training today, and he had trained yesterday. And the thing was, they kind of just stopped. They stopped him from doing full out sprints, and that'll be cases building into the rest of the week. So, as providing there's no issue on, let's say, rest of the week. I think they're off tomorrow, so on Friday we'll be hoping to have him and Stuart Finlay train ahead of the game against Motherwell. I think Stuart Finlay has just touched on him, an important one because the pace that Motherwell have in the final three. The only thing I would disagree with, I'll bring a comment in as well, when he talked about the kind of like bleeding in players, and on Sunday it was like, actually I found it was the two players who probably settled in the quickest were probably the most guilty of being of not being quite at it.
Yeah, but we said before, I don't know who was it. Well, I can't even remember. I had a conversation somewhere, might have even been on one of these videos before the game, about but it must have been at the game because we didn't find out until the Saturday, really. So it must have been when I was speaking to you or something. But it was then up to Braga we were going to have to see Braga in a different role. And I didn't mean necessarily on the pitch or what he was asked to do, but the fact that he was then, Shankland's not there, so he was going to step up and be the sort of senior striker. You know what I mean? I've shown what I can do this season, kind of thing. And yeah, maybe he and Kieselidis didn't really step up to that as much as they could. So I do agree with you there, but I still think that is as much down to the missing players as it is down to their own performance on the day.
Yeah. I mean, it's still, we've kind of talked about, and you talked about the settled formation and the settled partnerships across the pitches. I think that's been really key. And Lewis Lennox talks about Kabori, and I think this is a kind of frustration. Said Kabori looked like he wanted the final ball almost every time, especially after some weak headers at goal. He appeared very frustrated, and yeah, I think I was encouraged by his performance, and it probably goes back to that thing where everyone wasn't just on the same wavelength. Hopefully have a piece on the site tomorrow, a wee bit about Kabori, a wee bit insight in terms of his development and looking ahead to the African Cup of Nations. So keep an eye on that.
So can I just add to that?
Yeah, of course.
So the analysis that I did for the game,
yes,
picked out 3 things along the theme of that previous comment, and the third one that I picked out, I think, was the sort of summed it up the most. Braga had the chance to send Kabore, and I think there was one about 10 minutes before where I think he had held onto the ball for too long. And then this one, I think he tries to play too quickly. And when he tries to play the ball, Kabore's checking his run across the defender. So he's not ready to receive it. And Braga thinks he's already going to make the run on the inside of the defender. And they both look a bit sort of frustrated and annoyed, whether it's with each other or the situation, I don't know. And that just kind of summed it up. And that took Shankland and Braga a couple of weeks to sort of build that relationship, that understanding. And Kabore and Braga didn't know they were going to be playing together until Saturday morning, probably, or I don't know exactly what the lineup was going to be, but Shankland was going to be part of that attack, so it was going to be structured differently, or one of them was not going to be playing or something. I think that really sort of summed up what that last comment was talking about, that there's maybe just not quite that understanding there between everybody.
Before we move quickly on, just because I'll be doing it with Scott on Friday, just to get you to pick your brain or get your view on it. Would you? I think Hearts will go back to a front two, or to certainly go back to a traditional front two against Motherwell. Who would your front two be?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a really good question. I suspected Kabore would have dropped out on Sunday. I think it probably if Shankland was fit, I think that's maybe why Kabori started. So I don't know. It's a really difficult one. It's because I was thinking about this through the week that I can't wait until everyone's up to speed and we get to see Shankland and Kabori together. I think that's going to be, but I'm not necessarily saying that for this weekend. I think it's maybe a bit fantasy football. Maybe it's best for Hearts to go back to as close as they can the team that got all those results, got them to the top of the table, and then again try to blood people in again rather than try to do anything too smart, because it would be really harsh to, even Braga wasn't great. He wasn't terrible. He wasn't great on Sunday, but it'd be harsh to drop him. Still had a terrific season. And Kabori showed enough to be like, you want to see more of him. You want to see him get a run. So, I mean, it's a really, really difficult one. And you already saw Dundee United displayed that it's a difficult thing for McInnes to do as well, to try and figure out a way to play all these people and get the best out of them all.
I agree that they should probably go back to the kind of like a rough shape and system that brought the good run of results in that kind of steady shape. However, I get the feeling that there will be a surprise, or not a surprise. I think all I'll say is I'm very interested to see what the starting lineup will be on Saturday, and again, we'll get into depth with this with Scott. But I think it's easier to drop Braga than it is Kabori. I think it might be Kabori and Shankland. Certainly hope so. Like you, I'm looking forward to seeing Kabori get a run of games. Moving on to the kind of last key update from Denton McInnes was about Beni Baningime, and that is it's been a very common theme in the comments, as we can see, is that Malcolm Robert McGill says missing Beni. Scott Ennis, yep, there we go. Beni is the biggest miss. Look at our stats when he's not played from last season to now. Lorraine Lowe, you don't miss what you've never had, I guess. We miss Beni. He's the linchpin of our team. And is there another one?
I think that might be it. But yeah, high praise for Beni in the comments.
Yeah, and understandably so, because I think his absence has kind of been telling. Then we kind of referenced that after what game was it? Dundee United game, where he talked about just having that bit more control. Was it Dundee game? He referenced after one of the games where he talked about how Beni was a bit of a miss, and the good news is he's back out on one of my favourite phrases from football managers now, or within football, back on the grass, and he's been back on the grass running. There's hope that he might be back for Falkirk, but if not, then hopefully back for Rangers, all going well. And yeah, he has been wrote about it during the international break. Him and Devlin have been absolutely excellent, both individually and collectively.
Yeah, and again, that goes back to the point that I was making earlier. It's why maybe Magnuson is a bit further behind than he would want to be at the moment than maybe was the plan when he first came in. I mean, I still think his time will come and he'll settle more into the team, but he's been brought in because of an injury recently, but sort of thrown in to an extent. After just making lots of sort of cameos off the bench, as encouraging as those were, they weren't like full matches or full halves or anything like that, or 60 minutes. And you've seen the difference since Beni's come out of the team. I think, again, trying to decipher McInnes's comments from the weekend when he was talking about Ageu was going to start. Does that mean it was going to be instead of Magnuson? Was he sort of earmarking Ageu to come in and give that similar kind of control? Now, I know they're different players, Beni and Ageu, but I'd imagine that from the little we've seen of Ageu, he can take the ball in and turn opponents and get a foot in and things like that the same way that Beni can. So I wonder if that's where he was earmarked. Could have even been that the whole formation's changed because you did try to get the answer out of him, but I noticed that he wasn't. I don't know if he deliberately did it or not, but he didn't tell you what his shape was going to be when everybody was fit.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I actually didn't really think. I didn't really consider what the formation would have been if Shankland and Ageu were both fit in the starting 11 as expected. But yeah, I think that's, if it was the same shape, then probably. And also, in terms of your point about Magnussen and kind of getting up to speed and wanting everyone to get into that, the hope is that when Beni's back, McInnes has a really difficult decision to make when dropping Beni, because Magnussen has really kicked on and made himself a real force in the midfield, or McEntee's came back into the midfield and had a big impact. So that's what you're hoping for. The players are getting to a position where a lot of them are undroppable. Again, it's like difficult for Magnussen. He's stepping in to replace Beni Baningime. It's very big boots to fill, but it's one of those where I understand it'll take time.
Yeah, we'd be speaking about him a lot differently if he had just nodded that header either side of Mitov as well. Scott Innes here says Magnussen's like a rabbit at headlights, need to move McEntee into central midfield. I think it's maybe a wee bit harsh. I don't think he's been great the 2 games he's come in, but I do expect him to kick on and get better. And I think that's a good point, actually. I would like to see McEntee in midfield, but that then opens up the issue at right back again. And as Stuart Randall says here, I'd like to see Borchgrevink get more game time. And like he says as well, McEntee into midfield again, alongside Devlin. Sorry, we're badly missing Beni, I hope. And he's also open to seeing Kabori with Shanks, as we were talking about earlier. Sorry, I butchered that.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Borch, as... when I spoke with McInnes, mentioned it when I spoke to him yesterday when I was speaking about Ageu and just about Borchgrevink and how he'll be used in the next how we get game time in the next month or so. And I've seen in the evening news today, spoke with Barry and talked about how he was actually penciled in for a potential starting spot, and it was just felt that there was probably too many guys who hadn't played as. Bringing him in, there was a potential of having too many guys who have not played a lot of football. But yeah, I think fans should get to see a bit more of Borchgrevink, and that's where I'm one of those where I've just got a feeling that he could play against Motherwell, especially if we've got Harry Mill in front of him. I think that would certainly provide a bit more kind of solidity and assuredness, and not leave them too exposed, especially when Motherwell have such lively forwards.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he does do. That was something that Mark and I did speak about on Friday before the game, that and one of the reasons that we didn't think Borchgrevink would come in was because of the players missing. There was already going to be a few players already coming in that hadn't had much game time, so to bring in one more, so yeah, that kind of logic made sense. So
I did. Sorry to cut back across you, but I was just sticking on Borchgrevink, and that was, again, he came on at a time where I wasn't. It's just like the nature of the job is like I try to not write for the first 60 minutes, try to watch the first and then decide what to write about, and then those last 20 to 30 minutes are a bit are always a wee bit sketchy, and then speaking to mates after the game, seeing comments on social media, people replying and stuff, that a lot of people mentioned Borchgrevink, so I did go back to look at his clips or his performance on Scout and look at his stats, and it was an encouraging substitute appearance, and it was very clean on the ball. Got the ball in the box 2 times, had a couple of really good crosses. Just
that's going to please Derek McInnes. I know that he's easy to please in that respect sometimes. That sometimes he just wants, and in that situation he wanted, because I think he said after the game we needed to get more crosses into the box or something like that. And there was one delivery that wasn't very good, and it looked a bit lazy. But I think that's just sometimes his technique. But otherwise, he did get a few, and I'll get him brownie points with Derek McInnes, I think.
Yeah, I do think there's any doubt, like from what I've seen of Borchgrevink going back to pre-season, I don't think there's any doubt about his technical ability. It's more the kind of the physicality and the mobility side of things. I think that's probably the biggest jump up rather than like a technical jump up or a quality or talent jump up. It's more the Scottish football, the qualities that some people need to thrive in Scottish football, and I think that's what I'm interested to see in the next few weeks if he gets game time, about dealing with the robust side of Scottish football.
Yeah, exactly. But at the same time, talking about going back to something that's brought results, like switching back to the basically we're talking about the 4-4-2 here, aren't we? Mm-hmm. If you were to bring Borchgrevink into that, it's still going to be quite different from the 4-4-2 that we've seen before, because McEntee would quite a lot tuck in as like a sort of third centre back. It'd be Milne would be the left, or if it was Milne on the other side, Kingsley sometimes got forward. So yeah, I don't know whether it would sort of change the makeup of it too much. And Motherwell threw a spanner in the works last night with their formation. So if they go with the front two, they played the same formation all season, and then they went to a back three during the week there with a front two. So who knows what McInnes is thinking now off the back of that as well, because that will be in his thinking as well. Now, not being 100% sure what Motherwell are going to do.
Yeah, it'll be. I don't know if it was a case of Motherwell just because of the way Hibs play that they've kind of altered their shape, maybe to give themselves an extra centre back. So just because like the threat of Boyle and Bowie, when I say the threat of Boyle and Bowie, not much of a threat recently, but I just wonder how much that played into the hand. So yeah, I do. I think I'm really looking forward to Saturday, just with a massive Hearts away crowd. I know we're about to finish, but anyone who can tell me the last time, I think this is right. Anyone that can tell me the last time that Hearts took a full stand at Fir Park, leave it in the comment box. But I do think it's two really interesting teams, especially after the 3-3 at Tynecastle. Fascinated to see, I'm captivated to see what it's like on Saturday. I'm also relatively confident as well, which is always. But I'm usually confident. Except when we go to Tortry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we weren't confident about that. Conclude one more comment, and again, it seems to be quite a common theme. We immediately, the Gamer Live says, the Gamer X Live, I should say. We immediately looked more stable and lively down the right once Borchgrevink came on. I consider starting him against Motherwell with McEntee playing next to Devlin. Again, a common theme of not just giving Borchgrevink a chance, but getting McEntee into midfield.
Yeah, I do. I think that would be a popular decision by amongst Hearts fans. So it's certainly something that come under consideration. Certainly something I'll kind of ponder when writing the predicted 11 this for Friday. So yeah, I think good choices to be had.
Definitely. Anything else we need to add before we wrap it up?
I will just shout out about the current offer we have, Black Friday offer we have on at the moment. You might know better than me because I was away on holiday when it got launched, when this ends, but you can sign up to Heart Standard for a whole year for just £12. If my maths is correct, that is £1 per month, and it gets you obviously the latest news, exclusive interviews, in-depth features, tactical analysis. We do think it is a very good deal and worthwhile for Hearts fans. So be sure to check it out. I've not put it in the description, but I'll add it in the description. There's a link to take advantage of it. So if you've not checked it or written stuff, but thought about doing it, then take advantage of getting it for just £12 for the year.
And make sure, if you like to consume your content this way, we also have an app. So go over to heartstandard.co.uk to sign up. There's a subscribe tab there, or you can put /subscribe. And then you can also download the app and get our content on there once you have subscribed, if you do prefer that. We do anyway. It's just a much sort of cleaner experience for reading.
with the caveat that yes, it's still having an issue with stats bomb graphics. It's just trying to make them clearer. It's like when we download them and you see them, they're so clear, and then it's just the formatting when it goes on to the site. It's very frustrating. But so that's we try and limit how many we put on, just because it's quite. Some of them are quite difficult to make sense of if you are reading on a phone. But hopefully that is getting sorted sooner rather than later.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Good, done. Perfect. Oh, yes, I forgot it was me presenting. Thank you very much, everyone, for getting involved. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'll be back on Friday, where I will be joined by Scott McIntosh. Be sure to check out heartstanding.co.uk for all the latest. There'll be hopefully a couple of pieces going up tomorrow, and then build up to the Motherwell game on Saturday, which I'm very much looking forward to. So until the next time, have a lovely evening, have a lovely Thursday, and goodbye.